Hi there. So we are going to be looking at the production possibilities model. And the production possibilities model is one of the key models in economics. We use it to help us explain many concepts. As we get started in using this model, I want you to think about how you can use this and how you can apply it in your own life. As the name of the model implies, production possibilities, okay, what are we looking at? We're looking at the how we can produce something. So remember, we had those economic questions, what we're going to make, how we're going to make it, and for whom are we going to make it. So the production possibilities model is production, and what are our possibilities to produce? And we're going to be looking at two products, two services, two outcomes, and measuring the trade-offs and the possibilities given our resources to achieve production of these outputs. So the production possibilities demonstrates the following concepts. It demonstrates the concept of opportunity cost, economic efficiency, economic growth, and comparative advantage. So there are some assumptions with respect to the production possibilities curve that we need to keep in mind. We're looking at two outcomes, two goods, two services. We are going to assume that our resources are fully employed. That means that we're using them up at their fullest capacity. We will assume that our technology is fixed and that we are working over a specified period of time, and that our technology does not change during this period of time. So in the production possibilities model, we are going to develop what's called a production possibilities curve. So that's what the PPC means. Sometimes you'll hear it called PPF, meaning production possibilities frontier. Recall that opportunity cost is the next best alternative, that you have to give up something to get something else because we have scarce resources. So let's assume that you have 4 hours to study today, and you have a choice of allocating your time between accounting or economics. What are your possible choices? What are the trade-offs? So here are some choices. Okay, we can study 0 hours of economics and 4 hours of accounting, 1 hour of economics and 3 hours of accounting, 2 hours of economics and 2 hours of accounting, 3 hours of economics and 1 hour of accounting, or 4 hours of economics and 0 hours of accounting. So these are 5 possible combinations of how we can choose to allocate our scarce resource of time for 2 possible outcomes: economics studying or accounting studying. We can graph this by plotting these out, and we will have 2 axes, the y-axis and the x-axis. And I want you to remember that 0 always goes at the origin, and numbers get bigger as we go away from the origin. So let's plot the first point, 0 economics and 4 hours of accounting. So 0 and 4. Our next point is 1 hour of accounting, 1 hour of economics, and 3 hours of accounting, and that becomes our second point. Another option is 2 hours of economics and 2 hours of accounting. So in order to get more hours of economics, sorry, that's a little bit squiggly, we have to give up more and more hours of accounting. So note that when we were over here at this point, to get 1 more hour of of economics, we had to give up 1 hour of accounting. If we want to get another hour of economics study, we have to give up another hour of accounting. And so on. If we want 3 hours of economics study tonight, we have to give up another hour of accounting. So now we will only be studying 1 hour, and we'll be getting 3 hours of accounting study. If we want to allocate all of our resources to economic study, then we would have to give up another hour of accounting. What this line does is it measures our trade-offs. It measures how much we have to give up to get something else. We have to give up 1 hour of accounting for every incremental hour that we want of economics. In this way, we are measuring opportunity cost and we're modeling it. So the yellow line shows all the possible combinations that we can achieve with our resources. We can certainly do 1 hour and 1 hour. That would take up 2 hours, and it's attainable, but it's not efficient because one of our assumptions is that we are using all of our resources. Can we study 3 hours of accounting and 3 hours of economics? Well, no, we can't because we don't have 6 hours available. So that is unattainable. Every point on the line shows us combinations that are doable and that are efficient. When we talk about opportunity cost, we normally say it in a very specific way. We say the opportunity cost of 1 hour of economics is 1 hour of accounting. So don't get confused by the adjective opportunity. If you took out opportunity and just said the cost of 1 hour of economics is 1 hour of accounting, what you'd basically be saying is to get 1 hour of economics, you have to give up 1 hour of accounting. So the formula for opportunity cost is what you give up divided by what you get. The production possibilities curve or model is also used to model efficiency. So again, the line or that boundary that we drew shows us all the combinations of goods and services that can be produced and those that cannot be produced, given our assumptions of fixed technology and fixed resources. So efficiency in economics is a situation in which all of our resources are being used and we can't produce more without giving up more of another item. So under efficiency, we have 2 categories. One is productive efficiency, which is just what I said. You can't produce more unless you give up production of something else. And then we have allocative efficiency. And allocative efficiency is the point along that curve that is the most highly valued. You know, where do we think it is going to be best, that's normative, for us to locate? So how are we going to figure this out? Well, now we have to figure out something called marginal benefit and marginal cost. That should sound familiar. If I told you that you are going to have an economics exam tomorrow, where would you allocate your resources? Okay, would you do 4 hours of economics study and 0 hours of accounting, 2 and 2, 0 of economics and 4 of accounting? So you have to decide, you have to weigh your benefit for studying an extra hour versus the cost of studying an extra hour. And this is a personal decision that you have to make, because again, this I think would be something of a value judgment. How good are you in economics? If you're really good and you get it, no problem. But if you think, I better study just a little bit more so I can do a little bit better, then your benefit's going to be much greater. So what you're going to do is you're going to weigh your marginal benefit and your marginal cost. And right where those two intersect, that's going to tell you your allocative efficiency. So you might think it's going to be best for me to study 3 hours of economics. Okay, that's your marginal benefit and your marginal cost is at 3 hours. Why not 4? Well, remember the story I told you about the hot fudge sundae? Well, maybe if you study that 4th hour of economics, you're not going to add that much value, and it would be helpful perhaps to dedicate your time to something else. So you have to make those judgments, and that's going to be your allocative efficiency. Now, the shape of the production possibilities curve is not necessarily straight, and the question is why. The production possibilities frontier, see in this case I said PPF, and the previous slide I said PPC, so get used to seeing those interchangeably. The PPF is concave, meaning it's bowed outwards, because not all factors of production are substitutable. There exist what are called diminishing marginal returns. So this means that the more you employ your resources in the area of one product, the opportunity costs are going to increase. Okay, so as you shift your production to one product or the other, you're going to experience increasing opportunity costs. Not all resources are productive in all activities. We also use the production possibilities curve for modeling what we call comparative advantage and gains from trade. Comparative advantage is when an individual, business, or country can produce a good or a service at a lower opportunity cost than other individuals, businesses, or countries. We also have something called an absolute advantage, and an absolute advantage is where an individual, business, or country is more productive in the production of goods and services than any other individual, business, or country. So it's easy to think about comparative advantage as the lowest opportunity cost. So here's an example. Here we have a table that outlines for us how many hamburgers and pizzas Joe can make and how many hamburgers and pizzas Tom can make. So Joe can make 30 hamburgers if he puts all of his resources to the production of hamburgers, and then of course he would make 0 pizzas. Or he can make 40 pizzas and 0 hamburgers. If we look at Tom's situation, Tom can make 20 hamburgers and 0 pizzas, or 0 hamburgers and 10 pizzas. So it's pretty clear that Joe has the absolute advantage. He can produce more of both items than Tom can. But the question is, who has the comparative advantage? Who has the lowest opportunity cost, meaning who gives up the least amount in the production of hamburgers, and who gives up the least amount in the production of pizzas? Ahead and graph out Joe's production possibilities and Tom's production possibilities. That's wrong. Let's graph Joe's production possibilities curve. Joe can produce 30 hamburgers and 0 pizzas. If we put hamburgers on the x-axis, he will be producing 30 hamburgers and 0 pizzas. Or he can choose not to produce any hamburgers and 40 pizzas, which would be this point. When we look at Tom's production possibilities, Tom can produce 20 hamburgers and 0 pizzas. If we put hamburgers on the x-axis, one intercept would be here at 20, or he can produce 0 hamburgers and 10 pizzas. And we would indicate this 0 hamburgers and 10 pizzas. So these graphs show that Joe has a clear absolute advantage, but we want to find out the comparative advantage. Who has the least opportunity cost in the production of hamburgers and pizza? So if Joe produces 30 hamburgers, he has to give up the production of 40 pizzas. And our formula for finding opportunity cost is what you give up over what you get. So Joe's opportunity cost of one hamburger is 40 pizzas. He has to give up 40 pizzas in order to get 30 hamburgers. So we reduce that. We take 40 divided by 30. That reduces to 4/3. So what that basically tells us is his opportunity cost for one hamburger is 1 1/3 pizza. Now, if Tom produces 20 hamburgers, he gives up the production of 10 pizzas. Tom's opportunity cost of one hamburger is 10 pizzas. He's giving up 10 pizzas and getting 20 hamburgers. Again, the formula is what you give up over what you get. So Tom's opportunity cost of one hamburger is half a pizza. So Tom has the comparative advantage in the production of hamburgers because he's giving up less pizza. His opportunity cost is lower. So if we were to figure out who should be making what, we would tell Joe, Joe, you make the pizza. Tom, you make the hamburgers. And this way, they're both making that product that costs them the least in terms of giving up something else. Then both Joe and Tom can engage in trade, and they would both be able to enjoy pizza and hamburgers. So there are gains from trade, even if one of the trading partners isn't especially good at the production of the products in question. Joe can produce pizza and buy hamburgers from Tom as long as it is below what it would have cost him to produce the hamburger. And Tom can produce hamburgers and buy pizza from Joe. So that's called specialization, and what that does is it increases the production possibilities of both parties. And this is the argument that we use for international trade in terms of what countries should be producing which products. And we would be looking at what is their lowest opportunity cost. Where are they giving up the least? Finally, the production possibilities model is used for modeling economic growth. Growth means an expansion of the economy. Or if we're talking about a business, it could be the expansion of a business. Or if you're talking about yourself, your own production possibilities. So there are two sources of economic growth: an increase in the economy's factors of production, an increase in technology, an increase in human capital. So economic growth refers to what an economy can produce. If you're looking at a business, it's what a business can produce. If you're looking at yourself, it's what you can produce. So how do we model that? Well, we already know, for example, that we have an unattainable portion of our production possibilities curve and an attainable, and those combinations that we can achieve with our resources. But what if we have an increase in resources? And now with that increase in resources, we can now shift our production possibilities to the right and produce more. And that would be an example of economic growth. We also have economic contraction that can be modeled by the production possibilities curve. And if you wanted to model, for example, what has happened with our economy with the coronavirus, definitely we have not had growth. We've had a contraction of our resources. And so the curve would shift inward. Often when we're looking at economic growth, we look at where a society is making its choices. So here we have an example of two economies, Presentville and Futureville. And we have two possible allocations of resources, goods for the future and goods for the present. And what we find is that those societies that allocate their resources more towards, in the case of Presentville, towards good for the present, may experience growth. But when you compare it to those societies that allocate their resources on goods for the future, that growth level is going to be significantly higher. And those goods that will help us grow economically are investments in our 4 key resources, in our land, okay, our labor, educating our workforce, getting good training, good health care, our capital, our infrastructure, our equipment, and stimulating entrepreneurship will help an economy grow, as opposed to only concentrating on those goods and services that are for the present. So here's a little problem set for you to figure out. Here you have water and CDs. What is the opportunity cost of producing water? What is the opportunity cost of producing CDs? So I hope this helps. This production possibilities curve we use quite a bit. So please work through the problems. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and I will see you next time.